This time on the Iron King Inc. YouTube channel, I'm gonna take you through the inner workings of the mighty Caterpillar Dozer. Now, I know I've got a lot of people that watch my channel, mainly for the heavy equipment side, and I noticed that a lot of you like to watch this stuff, but don't necessarily know how the machines work, what makes them function, all the little bits and pieces from the hard nose to the fuel tank to the final drives, what actually makes this thing move and function. And we're gonna focus on that today. We're gonna start here at the hard nose and we're gonna end there at the fuel tank. Now, good news for you guys, we have not one, not two, but we actually have 3 D8T Caterpillar high drive dozers here, and they're all in different states of disassembly, and that's going to give us a perfect look on the inside of these dozers on how they function. So without further ado, sit back, relax, and get ready to learn something. We're going to start with this dozer. This is a D8T that we brought in from one of our local landfills. It actually drove off of the trailer, but we've since taken some parts off of it and used the parts in rebuilds and other things, sold them to customers, stuff like that. So we're gonna start here, right in the front, the business end of the mighty Caterpillar Dozer, the hard nose. So this right here is what they call the hard nose. It's kind of like a cowboy term. When I'm referring to the hard nose, I'm talking about this piece right here. So this is what all of the force of the blade is applied to, and it also protects your cooling package. So in here, and we'll get a better closer look, in here is your radiator and your fan. This is a little bit easier to see, but you have a bunch of different cores in here. That right there, the first one you're looking at, is actually the intercooler. So not part of the radiator system, but it is part of the charge air system. On the right side of the charge air cooler, you have your radiator cores. Now, the way Caterpillar designed this, they called this the modular core system here. And it's got separate cores to where if you damage one, you can replace it. You can see they're all looped together. I'll bring you around here. Let's see if we can stick the camera in here and focus on the fan. We can't with this dozer here. So that's gonna take us back to the dozer over there that's missing the radiator guard. We're gonna be doing a lot of this, a lot of back and forth to find certain machines that have certain pieces off and certain pieces on. It's a learning process. A lot of walking from you. I need the exercise anyway. Okay, so radiator guard is missing. That's what these are called right here, radiator guards. Beyond that, you have your hydraulic fan. Now, not all Caterpillar dozers have a hydraulic fan. This one is a waste handler, so this machine was used for pushing garbage in a landfill, and it actually has what they call an ejector fan. So right here, these blades are facing this direction. Whatever direction they're facing, they push the air out of the hard nose. So they eject air out this way instead of pulling debris into the radiator. So what's going to happen here is when this machine gets up to temperature, there's a sensor on the engine, which we'll get into later, that once it triggers, it's going to trigger this motor to turn on the fan motor, and it's going to eject all of the debris out this way. Now, right here are called your yokes. Now, these are what the lift cylinders bolt to, and then the lift cylinders go down to the blade. But this is pretty much where all of that lifting force goes on the machine when it picks up the blade. All that force is built into here, into the hard nose. So I think we pretty much summed up what the hard nose does. It houses the radiator, protects the radiator, houses your hydraulic fan and your hydraulic fan motor, and it also supports the lifting of the blade and the front lift cylinders. Let's go ahead and move on to the engine of this dozer. Guess what? We are back on the other dozer that has the engine enclosures removed, and we can get a way better look at the power plant of this Caterpillar dozer. So this machine right here, this is a D8T, and it's powered by a C15 Caterpillar engine, which is basically the later version of the Caterpillar 3406. So now there's only so much I can explain about this. I guess I could go in depth with you guys here about, you know, the Caterpillar C15 and all the different configurations it's had over the years, but it's an engine. So it sits right here. This is what powers all of the pumps. It powers all of the hydraulic system to make this dozer function. So we're not going to get too crazy in depth here, but this is where the engine sits, and it is protected again by the hard nose, and it is also protected by the engine enclosures, which have been removed here, and we can check that out on the other dozer. So back here on this D8 that is still fairly complete, you can see all of the engine protection that is on this dozer. So these are the engine enclosures. You got them on both sides, and you also have a hood and a pre-cleaner and exhaust system that is actually part of the hood. So if you remove this, all of that is going to come off with it. Basically what's missing on that dozer over there. So like I said, I don't want to get too crazy in depth with this engine. It's an engine. It powers the hydraulic system that makes the dozer go backwards and forwards. It is the beating heart of the machine. Let's move on from the engine and get into more of the technical stuff that you may or may not know about these machines. So as you can see, the operator station has been removed off of this tractor. And it gives us an awesome look into what they call the hell hole. So this has been nicknamed by all the mechanics and operators who started working on these dozers. This is called the hell hole because the cab sits right here, and there's a little plate. If the cab is still on it, you remove that plate, and then all your hydraulic pumps, your hoses, torque converter, all down in here, and it is not a fun place to work. So it's got nicknamed the hell hole. So far we've touched on the hard nose and the engine. Now we're going to touch on this area right here. So on the back of this engine is called your flywheel housing, okay? The flywheel housing is going to house all of your gears and all of your ancillaries that are going to allow this engine to power the hydraulic pumps, and it's also going to house your torque converter, which is going to allow you to transfer the power from this engine through a drive shaft into the transmission of the dozer to make it go backwards and forwards. I'll show you that here. So with this torque converter removed, and I'll get this camera way down in here for you guys. All right, here we go. You can see that that's the back of the flywheel of that dozer, and there's normally a torque converter attached to it. It's been removed. So what you're gonna see down here on these other dozers once we get into it is there's going to be a drive shaft that connects your torque converter and goes to this yoke right here. That's what's going to transmit the power from your engine to your transmission. This is the back of the flywheel housing. You have two pumps. You have this pump right here, and you have this pump right here. That's going to be your main hydraulic pump. That's going to power all the hydraulics in this machine. It's going to power your lift cylinders, your tilt cylinders, and there's also a couple other things. So like, it's also going to power your ripper, or if you have anything on the back of this machine, that's going to power it. This is your steering pump. So this machine is what they call diff steer, and this machine is going to create the pressure to go into your steering motor right here, and it's going to turn the machine backwards and forwards. And we'll get a closer look to that on the other machines that are missing the final drives. But you have your steering pump, and then the lines to your steering motor. So I'll give you guys a really close look here too. Up here on the fenders of this dozer is your powertrain filters. So this is going to come from your powertrain pump or your transmission pump. These lines are going to go down and inside. And this machine is missing the transmission pump, but it would be right here, and I will show you that on the other dozer. But your lines are going to come up, and it's going to filter through these filters and then come back down and cycle through the system. Right next to it is your hydraulic tank. This is going to hold all the hydraulic fluid to power your cylinders, your ripper cylinders, all of your attachments that you have on this machine. We're gonna go ahead and run over to one of the other machines so you can get a better look at what the torque converter and the drive shaft looks like. So we've got this dozer right here. We're gonna hop up into the operator station and look down, and that should give us a better look at the torque converter and drive shaft. So, this machine right here still has the torque converter in it. Now, I showed you guys before on the other machine, this was removed, and you could see the flywheel from the engine. This is your torque converter. This is what is going to transmit the power from the engine through a drive shaft, and you have an open hole here to where the transmission would be. There's a drive shaft that connects the two together. Now, on a lot of automotive applications, the torque converter is connected physically to the transmission all in one piece. On dozers, on a lot of Caterpillar equipment in general, a lot of smaller wheel loaders are like automotive, but these bigger machines have a drive shaft that connects the torque converter to the transmission. This machine, you can also see the transmission pump. Now that was removed on the other one, and you could see all of the holes to where the lines would go up and into your powertrain filters. Here's what the pump looks like. It's got a guard on it, and this pump is what is going to create the pressure for your clutches to engage and move the tractor. So far in this video, we've covered the hard nose, the engine, and how the engine transmits power through a torque converter, through the drive shaft, and into the transmission to make the machine move. We've also covered powertrain filters and the hydraulic system of this machine. Let's go ahead and get into the powertrain, the transmission, the final drives, the track frames. We're gonna start with the transmission. So I think this is a perfect starting point here. This machine is obviously missing the transmission. It's not here. You can see the transmission, or the torque converter yoke that is missing the drive shaft that would connect the two together. This is the inside of the transmission case. You can see all sorts of tubes for where the powertrain fluid would move in and out. You can see the steering clutch on the inside. This one's missing, but this is where the transmission sits and is protected. So moving over, this machine still has the transmission intact. You can see what it looks like here. This is the back end of the transmission. And what they're gonna do here to couple the transmission to the final drives is you have a series of axle shafts. So you've got your intermediate shaft and then two outer shafts. So there's one that sits in the middle and then two on each side of the machine that are going to couple the transmission to your final drives to make the tractor move. I think this is a perfect segue into the steering system of this machine. Now, what I said earlier was this machine is diff steer, which means it has a differential in here and it has a motor with a pinion on it, and it looks basically like, I guess in layman's terms, you have a ring gear and you have a pinion, kind of like a differential. Well, differential. And it spins backwards and forwards, which would spin one final drive this way and one final drive that way, and it's going to allow the tractor to move back and forth. Here is what you have is called the brake. This is not a steering clutch. I might have mentioned that before. This is a brake, not a steering clutch, because this machine is a diff steer. So this brake right here has 2 or 3 clutches on it, and we'll actually go back to this machine because we can probably get a better look at that. So in here, it's going to be kind of tough to see, but in here I can feel my finger on it. There's a series of discs and plates that are going to apply pressure and makes this machine stop. So this is your brake. This does not turn the tractor. This just keeps it from moving. Now, on the outside of your brake is your final drive. So the final drive is what finally transmits power to your track. And we'll get into that on the other machine that actually has tracks. But final drive right here, through these sprockets, grabs the track and moves it, and propels the machine forward. Now inside this is a series of gears. You have your inner planetary gears and your outer planetary gears. So an axle shaft is going to go in. What you have here is a big gear behind this plate. That is called the sun gear. Big gear goes in here. You then have what they call the planetary gears, right? So you have the sun, and then the planetary planet gears go around the sun. So this gear is going to spin. It's then going to cause these gears to go the other way, or whichever direction you want to go, and that gives you your reduction in your final drives. So back over here to this dozer that actually has tracks on it, gives us a better look at the inner workings of how this is going to grab and move the track over. So you have a sprocket right here, and this sprocket is going to engage the bushing on this track, and it's going to grab it and rotate the track over. That's going to bring us into what these giant hunks of metal are called. This is called your track frame. Okay, so this is going to house your idlers on each side, boop, right there, and your rollers. So I see people get this mixed up all the time. These big ones right here, those are called your idlers. It's got two on each side, another idler, and then you have your rollers. So your rollers are what basically hold the track in place so it doesn't walk around like this. So you have double flange rollers, and you can see how this one has two flanges. That's called a double flange roller. That's gonna keep the track from walking around like a snake. It's gonna keep it nice and straight. And then what you have is called a single flange roller. We'll see if we can find one of them. Let's see here. There should be a single flange on here somewhere. Let's move to the other side. Double, double, double. So this machine should have a single flange roller. I don't have a good example for you, but you have 2 flanges. A single flange roller just has this and that. These guys are not here. So this giant hunk of metal is called your rear telescoping recoil frame. So inside of this is a giant spring. Spring goes all the way back here, and it has what you call the track adjuster. And the track adjuster is gonna sit inside of the spring, and inside of that spring is your track adjuster. So when this machine is going round and round and round for thousands of hours, it wears your undercarriage out, and by doing that, it stretches the track. And what I mean by stretch is this point from this point is gonna get gradually larger. So they need to make up for that by this piece right here. And this allows the front frame to move into the rear telescoping recoil frame and stretches this piece out and allows you to tighten up your track. So I said there's a big spring in here. Yes, there is a spring in here, but it's actually part of this piece right here. So in here is your track adjuster and your recoil assembly. This just houses it right here. So you have your spring and your track adjuster in here that allows this to move backwards and forwards. And that giant spring is in there to where if they hit a giant rock or something impacts that, it cushions the blow and can come back out. So right here, this is called your trunnion ball. And what the trunnion ball does is it takes all of the force of the dozer of this machine and basically puts it through the rest of the tractor. So you have the trunnion ball, you have a cap that goes over it, and you have what you call your push arm. Arm goes all the way up here and stops. You have the same thing on the other side, and then you have your blade. So the blade connects to the push arms and transmits the force of the blade into your track frames and into the rest of the tractor. So kind of coming up to the end here, we have our fuel tank and our fuel tank guard. And behind here is your main valve. So this valve behind here, and we'll walk around up top and we'll get a closer look at this. So your main valve is up here behind the fuel tank, right here. And this is going to, I believe it's blade lift too. I could be very wrong here, and someone will definitely correct me in the comments because there's a few of you that are pretty smart. I believe you have blade lift, blade tilt, and if this machine was set up for it, you're gonna have your ripper valves as well. These are actually separate sections. So you have a section right here, and you can see a little brake, another section right here, you see a little brake, and another section, and you can keep adding sections on here, and that's gonna give you more levers in the cab, and it's gonna allow you to operate different attachments on the dozer. So, what connects the track frames to the frame of the machine? Well, that is called your pivot shaft and your equalizer bar assembly. So your pivot shaft right here is a big long bar that's gonna go all the way across from this track frame all the way to the other track frame, and it basically connects the two track frames together. Now on a dozer, these frames right here go up and they go down, and they allow some sort of suspension to cushion the blow over rocks and different types of terrain. You also have what they call equalizer bar. So the equalizer bar right here connects right here to the track frame, connects to the center frame of the dozer, and then connects to the other track frame of the tractor. And the term equalizer bar means when one frame goes up, the other frame goes down. It keeps everything aligned and moving freely as the suspension of the dozer. So it's getting really windy, but I think we've covered a lot of the basic bases of the dozer. One last thing before we get into the operator station: your belly pans. This is what takes all of the force of the rocks, any debris you have, anything, and rocks that come up. It'll save your engine, your oil pan, all of your vital components. These big hunks of metal here protect that. Now the weather's getting really bad here. Let's run into the inside of the operator station of one of these dozers, and I'll show you how the operator runs this thing. Get up inside. Okay, so here's the operator station of these dozers. So normal operator gets in, sits down, and you have all of your gauges. So RPM, you have coolant temperature, you have, I believe that's hydraulic oil temperature. So you have hydraulic oil, power train, and you have fuel. This is gonna display your hours. Now over here, you have the operator systems display. So it's gonna tell you how many hours, how much fuel you've used, certain codes. Basically, you can go through the screen and do a lot of functions on this machine. You've also got blade up, blade down, tilt left, and tilt right. Now this dozer was not equipped with a ripper, and this has been blocked off, but right here would have been another valve and another lever quite like this one that allows you to lift up and lift down with your ripper. Now in here is just a bunch of different lights. So rear lights, forward lights, fog lights, and you have your projector lights, transmission auto shift. This locks out the hydraulics on this machine. And you have your throttle. So the way the throttle works on a dozer is it's quite opposite, literally, than an automotive application. So you press down to idle and you lift up to accelerate. And what this does right here is this is going to lock it into idle, and this is going to unlock the decelerator right here and allow you to move backwards and forwards and allow the machine to rev up and rev down. Now on the other side here we have how you steer and how you go backwards and forwards with the machine. So there's a little lock right here. You press down on this, and that's going to allow you to pull to the right or push, and you're going to go left. Now if you want to go forward, click it into F for forward, N for neutral, R for reverse. You have 3 total forward gears, and you have 3 reverse gears with this machine. So if you want to go forward, you're going to click up for 1, up for 2, up for 3. Same thing for reverse. Now to turn the machine off or on, there'd be a key in here. Simple starting procedure. Turn it off to turn it off, turn it on, just like an automotive application. I really appreciate you guys watching my videos here. I hope that this was informative. If I missed anything, please throw it down in the comment section. I know I had to have missed something. I tried to get all of the major components. Like I said, I'm sure I've missed something, so throw it down in the comments on what I should have mentioned or what I should mention in the future. I'll see you guys in the next video.